Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent. Welcome, and I'm always trying to play games with you guys on the stream. Just subscribe so you can catch them. And I'm always trying to play these like free-to-play games, and I want to jump in and make memories, these adventures, quests with me, please and thank you. And I know you guys are looking, for the same with your friends, your family. So, I get asked the question often, like, what's some good action RPGs I can play with friends? I want to play a dungeon diver with the boys. What are the games? Come on, give me the good stuff, Sky. I know you play these titles, and I do. Okay, so there's a bunch of games that I could have put on this list. I distilled it down to 5 plus an honorable mention, but I think you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with these. Now, personal bias obviously put into this, but I also think that they're safe bets when it comes to, I guess, the niche topic of what are the best free-to-play co-op dungeon diving action RPG, and I'm ranking them based on the ARPG, the dungeon divingness, and how good they are co-op. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's jump into this list. Keep the hype alive. Let's do this. Starting out, I do got my honorable mention. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw this up here. So, in terms of dungeon diving, maybe I'm cheating, but it's a defending. We're talking about Dungeon Defenders 2, which is sort of a hidden gem, which is weird because the original OG freaking Dungeon Defenders was amazing, which I guess was also sort of a little bit of a hidden gem itself. But in terms of co-op, oh my goodness. And actually, in terms of action RPG, the looting mechanics, ooh, the action, especially in Dungeon Defenders 2, is fantastic. Now, this is the free-to-play version. There are 2 other versions, which are not free-to-play, and they're older, and they look a little bit different. They do play a little bit different, to be honest. But Dungeon Defenders 2, I really appreciate for its aesthetic. It's very comfortable. You can jump in, and without being too convoluted with its ARPG aspects, it's just an action tower defense game. So each class has different kind of towers that you build. They have different weapons and a different feel. So some are going to feel more, I guess, usual, like a berserker, or more melee oriented. Others are going to be totally focused on the towers. There's even classes that I play, like one is the summoner, which is entirely just based on the RTS aspect of the game, but you still got a lot of loot, and you still are killing hordes, waves of enemies. A big power fantasy element to this game, which I know you're looking for. And sure, you do definitely have the prospects of turn your brain off and just, watch the spectacle on the screen, but the game actually can get incredibly challenging. It's really fun to check out this game, Horde Wave Survival ARPG, and there are some big bosses, and there definitely is something to overcome with this title. Some gamification, I promise. It's not just all cheese, and it's not just for kids. I know it looks cartoony, and I definitely think that more people should be checking out this game, especially if you want to play a free-to-play co-op action RPG. But to begin the list proper, I do got Phantasy Star Online 2. Now, this game might look a little bit dated, a little bit rough around the edges. I know that UI, it kind of slaps you in the eyes, but it is an 8-year-old game, I do believe, coming from the East, and this already had a pretty big fan base around the world who would play on the Japanese servers with English patches, but it finally actually, somewhat recently, like a couple of months ago, launched on Steam, and generally people are having fun with it despite its datedness. I think a lot of people are calling this an MMO, and even though it looks like an MMO at first glance, and it actually does potentially have raids, which is pretty cool, and it's very animu, it's very insane. It's more probably in line with something like Monster Hunter, where you jump in, you run through a level, oh, there's a big boss. You're gonna be fighting lots of big-ass monsters, and what's really cool is there's like a verticality element to this game. Like there is a real ridiculousness, a very comic bookness to this game. So not gonna be for everyone, but despite how niche this particularly looks, it actually is much more popular than you would think. And a lot of people were very hungry for this game. Now, I barely have played this franchise, so I know it can be very cheesy, but if you're looking for a stupid, cheesy, you got a bunch of friends who love anime, okay, you weebs, jump into Phantasy Star Online 2. It's worth a shot. Now, number 4 might be definitely more for the Western audience. In fact, it was really particularly designed for that to an extent, and that's going to be Vindictus. Vindictus might look like, I I guess Dark Souls on steroids, and in some ways it is. I definitely immediately, I want to applaud, okay, ARPGs, grim darkness, boss fights. I think they all kind of go hand to hand. Oh my god, the monster design in Vindictus is so good. Okay, sometimes it's just a polar bear, sometimes it's just a sexy chick. I don't know. Sometimes it's like it's a rabid fox kind of thing. I get it. No, but the animations. The animations, oh my god, I love how the East does just monster designs and monster animations. It's so good. Going all the way back to Godzilla, the film days. They know monsters. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Anyways, Vindictus, if you want to feel the aggression from boss fights, this might be the most aggressive game on every, I don't know, I really appreciate that. But also you can be a hyperactive ninja, dual wield blading knight. You got hot girls with scythes, hot girls with dual blades. There's a lot of hot girls you can play as. You pick a character, you jump in, you play. Now this would be higher because it is pretty action-packed. There is a little bit of repetition with the game, and also the flow. So when I rank co-op games, I want to just jump in co-op and just, you know, non-stop play, which you can in like Dungeon Defenders or something like that. But in Vincentus, there is like, oh, you got to go back to the hub town. There's like these talking head moments. There's like some anime waifus trying to chat you up or whatever. It kind of breaks up, you know, the flow, the speed of the game. So the gameplay loop is like, you know, a little bit, I think, hurt because of that. Really, I just want to jump in, fight some big ass monsters. So Vincentus loses some points for that. But if you guys can take a whole weekend, you know, spend a little bit of time in this game, RPG it up, I think you're gonna have a great time. There's not really many roles or anything. You just jump in. It's a beat 'em up. It's a hack and slash at its purest. And it's dark, it's gruesome, it's a little bit mature, but gosh dang it, it's neat, and I think more people should be checking it out. Halfway on the list is a game that needs no introduction, but it's Warframe, and it's ninjas in space. You should know it. You know, it's actually a very dark and gruesome game as well, especially with the newest expansion. I want to say, like, since we already know about Warframe, some things that I want to add on to other people's thoughts and feelings is I really love the atmosphere. That's pretty much it. Like, I love the atmosphere, and I love the sort of just turn your brain off vibe to the game. Like, this is the kind of game that you just play to vibe with friends online. And it actually kind of loses points for that because I wish there was extremely challenging boss fights, and I wish there was challenge modes or a proper PvP, or, you know, I really wish that there was some sort of true dungeon diving, but it's more of like, okay, look, frankly, it is the most fantastic power fantasy I've ever played in my life. It gets insane, but it's also in those RPG mechanics where there's a tremendous amount of disbalance, which is fun, except when you play with friends, then it's like they're not at your level or you're not at their level. When you play online, some people can just clear the level instantly and you just walk behind them. So there's a lot of non-gameplay kind of to this game, and there's a lot of non-cooperative interaction as well, where everyone's just kind of spamming abilities. But at the same time, it is kind of dumb fun. So this game is either, you know, your 5 million IQ, 5 head, you know, kind of calculating and doing all this RPG mechanics alone, solo, or when you play with friends, it's just turn your brain off and, you know, have a chill night in a way. I know it's weird if you see the gameplay, it's like chill. Trust me, it's so ridiculous that it kind of almost massages your brain with information. I don't know how to explain it. It just does. If you guys have played Warframe, you know what I'm talking about. If you played Warriors style games or other action RPGs, just because there's a lot of action technically happening on the screen, it doesn't always mean that your brain's actively engaged in it, but it does feel pretty good on your eyeballs. So yeah, that's my review. Warframe's halfway on the list. And now number 2. For a lot of the reasons that I kind of just slapped Vincentus and Warframe, actually Dauntless solves those issues. In fact, it actually does a better job than the game that it lives in the shadow of, which is Monster Hunter World, and probably, frankly, soon to be Monster Hunter Rise. Dauntless is a boss-in-a-box, jump in, pick a weapon, get some customization, slightly RPG mechanics. It's not as deep as some other games, which is, frankly, kind of a boon to it. But, okay, make some armor, get a weapon, jump in, you fight some big-ass monsters. And it's so good because the queuing is near instantaneous. It's so easy to just literally jump in and fight a monster. And also meet up with friends and play with them. Now, it is on the Epic Games launcher. Some people don't like that. You guys are good, better get used to it. But Dauntless definitely beats Monster Hunter World and a few other games because the pacing is generally more balanced. It's more easy to get into it. Like in Monster Hunter, there's like this weird thing where it's like somebody has to join a match and then they have to like watch the cutscene and then they can invite other people and then you have to wait for them to load in, and it's like they have to be on the same story parity level. And that's just so much easier in Dauntless. Like if I had to pick which Monster Hunter to play with friends, it's Dauntless, hands down. Dauntless is like the sort of more slightly simple, more minimalistic at least, more straightforward Monster Hunter game. However, don't let that fool you. As you actually progress through the game, there is some, you know, there are RPG mechanics, there is customization, and the monsters themselves kind of actually pull some ideas from MMOs, even though it's a 4-player game, and you actually have these very gimmicky, magical encounters where like teleporting monsters, or there's like these sort of mini games you play with them, which I definitely appreciate to the debatably more realistic monster fights inside of Monster Hunter. So yeah, it's got its own flavor. It is its own game, even though it is a clone, but at the same time, to play with friends, even if you already play other Monster Hunter games, you got to be jumping into Dauntless. And number 1, which my bias is going to show so hard here, it's going to be Dragon Nest. Dragon Nest is this very strangely arted game where it's kind of chibi, but it's like, it definitely looks dated. It honestly looked kind of weird when it first came out too, but friends and family, oh my God, the action in this action RPG, the dungeon diving in this dungeon diver, the cooperation in this co-op game it's so freaking underrated when it comes to the West. Now, it's actually so big in the East, like there's movies, you know, they have events, but dude, I don't know, in the West, it's almost a dead game, basically. Now, this is the kind of game where basically most of these games, really, you pick it up for a weekend, you're walking away with memories. You know, you just jam, hey, what class are you playing? Okay, I'm gonna play this class. You jump in and it's so bombastic. The bombacity, if that's even a word, is the most out of any game. Even though Warframe beats it in terms of pure power fantasy, just the explosions, the monster juggling, and also the variety of encounters where you are gonna fight big ass monsters. There are gonna be crazy boss fights, but then you also are gonna have that sort of Musou or Warriors style, you know, wuxia kind of gameplay. And then the class operations are very different. I really appreciated the warrior with its like, you know, wind, tornado, and the amount of CC that they have, and how you have to always be mobile or else you're gonna die. And then you have the tinkerer who's always summoning things and just constantly bombarding the battlefield. And you know, there's the ninja classes, and every class kind of does feel a little bit different, where in other games, things kind of do blend together, bleed a little bit together. But I do really appreciate Dragon Nest's overall style and flavor, even though it's weird. But actually, I gotta say that that weirdness kind of comes into play when it comes to the world building. The story's a little bit unique, even though it looks usual. And there's actually some quests, especially the Goblin Grandfather quest I really liked, I think around level 20 or something like that, that actually made me cry. Like, it was legitimately good. So even if you just speed read through this game and just run and gun through the dungeon diving, get to the end game, beat the bosses, it's honestly, like, in most ways, it's actually so underrated. Also to say that the game, you can play it with, I guess, different kind of skill levels. Maybe if you have a son, a girlfriend, something like that, someone younger or someone more inexperienced, you can actually choose the different experience or difficulty levels in the dungeons if you want to do that. Where other games, it's like it's do or die, or you know, this is a game I think is very safe for a lot of different people, and you definitely want safety when it comes, you know, overall to, hey, inviting people to play some game with you as a party, as a group of friends. You know, hey, this is gonna be a fun game. The art style is niche, but if you get past that, I promise you this is the most action-packed action RPG in terms of magic, fantasy, and, you know, kicking some big-ass dragon's ass. But that's it, guys, friends and family. I hope you do appreciate these games with your friends and family. I know you guys wanted like killing lots of enemies, big ass monsters, power fantasy, and overall, I think you really just wanted to go do with some dudes, with the boys or girls, and you just wanted kind of an excuse to grind it out and turn your brain off sometimes. You want something to do, to come back to, and just, you know, make some memories, have an experience with some friends. That's what these games do. I think dungeon diving action RPG are definitely a good genre to play cooperatively, but not all of them. Okay, not all of them are equal. Like, you know, Path of Exile, not that great co-op actually. Even though there is options, a lot of MMOs. Actually, no, you playing with a guild maybe, but friends. There's something different about games you can play with others and games that are kind of really fun co-op. So hopefully you guys understand that. That's my list. That's my reasoning. This is it. That's the end of the video. I would appreciate peeling some eyeballs on the Patreon so that I can play more games or review them. Absolutely. But all I can really ask is you keep the hype alive. Thanks so much for watching. Much love, friends and family, and I'll see you in the next one.